My name is Aisha Ibrahim. This is Election Brief. Within the next 30 minutes, we have the latest update from the political scene. We are live on DSTV, channel 421, GoTV, channel 125. All our social media handles are Joy News on TV. Around the world at myjoyonline.com. Election Headquarters is brought to you by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity, Chartered Institute of Management Accountant, and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants and German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental Wellness and Beauty. Election Headquarters for an informed electorate. Participants at the Ghana Connect Town Hall meeting in Kumasi have asked political parties going into the 2024 elections to ensure their needs are reflected in drafting their manifestos. The manifestos spell out the vision of the parties to enable the electorate make informed decisions. The electorate from the Bono, Ahafo and Ashanti regions want their issues bordering on education, health and social protection prioritized. Nana Boache Yadom has more.
The Ghana Connect Town Hall in Kumasi, organized by Joy News and Star Ghana Foundation, saw participants from the Ahafo, Bono and Ashanti regions share concerns on matters of education, health and social protection. Participants included persons with special needs, teachers, small business owners, traditional leaders and civil society organizations. The engagement with the electorate is to enable them have their say as political parties ready their policies for the polls. Some participants who spoke to Joy News admonished political parties to reflect on their needs in drafting their manifestos.
One thing that we want the politicians to know is our Disability Act, as we are speaking now, is not yet passed. For we have major issues or major things in it that has to be put in place to better our lives as PWDs. But as we are speaking, all these things are lying down there because it's not being implemented. So as nowadays that we are seeing ramps making available at other public centers like the hospitals and the banks, but others don't have. Because that makes it difficult to access these places. Actually, what we are expecting them to do is about the youth, and then especially me, I emphasize on agriculture because that has been the lifeblood of this country. So anything that they are doing should be related to our agriculture sector. Because you realize that Ghana spends a lot of money in the importation of other products which we can also produce here. For example, rice. If you look at the number of hard currency that goes into the importation of rice, is too huge. Secondly, me as a traditional leader of my Fulani or the Fulbe, I know how it is and I know how much is spent in the importation of meat. You see that now we bring in a lot of meat from other countries. Whereas if you have to look at this sector, like the livestock sector, bring reforms, train them into modern way of doing things, I'm sure it is going to cut a lot of money that is being spent so that we can use it on the other sectors like what we have seen in the education and then the health sector.
Okay, let me commence with health. It's an open secret that even now the health insurance is a good policy. There are some policy and implementation gaps that need to be catered for. Talking of, there are some sicknesses that needs intensive care. Talking about those on dialysis and diabetic patients and other health issues that needs a lot of money, and health insurance is not being catered for. I strongly believe that there should be allocation to cater for those health needs.
Dr. Ernestina Tete is the project manager at Star Ghana Foundation. She says the party manifestos must not be outside what the National Development Planning Commission has for various sectors of the country.
So whatever the parties are doing are not supposed to be outside of the plan that NDPC has for us as a nation. But what has been put in bite sizes with which they are engaging us is the manifesto. And that is where we get the chance to directly make an input to. So the whole idea of the manifesto is not supposed to be outside of the plan, our development plan. So each of our review of the manifesto, for instance, for the education, health, and social protection, shows that the education and health sector plans are not different or far away from the manifestos.
For Joe News, Nana Boache Dankwa Yadom, Kumasi.
The National Treasurer of the NPP, Dr. Charles Dwamena, has called on party members to help in building a stronger party machinery, which is the essential vehicle that the flag bearer, His Excellency Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia, will need to bring the aid. Speaking at the inauguration of the Ashanti Regional Campaign Team, Dr. Dwamena indicated that election 2024 is critical for the country and that two key factors are essential and the strengths of candidates and that of the party. He therefore called on party members to help fix and maintain that vehicle by ensuring that all have paid their membership dues.
The National Treasurer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Charles Dwamena, has touted the Vice President and NPP flag bearer, Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia, as a fantastic candidate with the requisite experience to lead the country. Speaking to Joe News at the inauguration of the Ashanti Regional Campaign Team, the National Treasurer says there must be collective efforts to ensure the victory of the party going into the December 7th election. He therefore called on all party members to help fix and maintain the vehicle by ensuring that all have paid their membership dues.
We in the New Patriotic Party, we go with a bouquet of funding. We take funding from membership dues, funding from internally generated funds, funding from patrons and other well wishers. So all put together, we're able to mobilize enough resources. Currently, membership dues is leading in this bouquet of funding resources with over 33% of our revenue. So we believe that with our numbers, when we all chip in what it is, we'll be able to raise substantial amounts of money to push this campaign forward.
So far, what have you been able to achieve when it comes to membership dues and other ways that you are putting together to get money? Where are you currently?
As I indicated, currently membership dues is the #1 organic revenue generator for the party, leading with about 33% of our total revenue, and the others are spread between internally generated funds, funds from patrons and other financiers. So basically, we're doing very well, but there is more room for improvement because more people are yet to come on board. And so we want to use your platform to encourage party members to come on board, to honor their obligations to the party, chip in their dues.
He described the NPP flag bearer as an experienced driver to take over as president.
Well, it's very clear. Everybody knows that when you are traveling, you need two key things, especially when you are traveling by road. You need a driver and a vehicle. Now, if you have an experienced driver and the vehicle is not solid, you won't get to your destination. If you have a solid vehicle and you don't have an experienced driver, you won't get to your destination. We are doing everything possible to make the vehicle solid. And we have a fantastic candidate who is an experienced driver. He knows what he's about, he's level-headed, and he has the political will to push things through. So we believe that with him at the driving seat, we will get to our destination one touch come December 7, 2024.
He says better structures being put in place by the NPP, it will be possible to win the December 7th election.
We don't downplay any election, but we know that per what we've done, per the structures we put in place, and per the caliber of the candidate we have, we are definitely going to cruise to victory come December 7th. But of course, we are not going to be complacent. We are leaving no stone unturned. We'll make sure whatever we need to do to ensure that we attain victory and break the aid, we will do it legally and ensure that come December 7, 2024, His Excellency Dr. Bawumia will be elected and announced the President-elect of the Republic of Ghana.
For Joe News, Nana Boache Dankwa Yadom, Kumasi.
This brings back the conversation about political party campaign financing. There have been concerns about how political parties have been financed in this country over the period, which many say leads to the popular mantra "job for the boys." Concerns are that the moment party individuals and entities begin to sponsor political party campaigns, it makes the winning party vulnerable to these individuals and entities in terms of paying back the gesture. Well, there's been calls for a national policy to streamline how political party campaigns are funded. This afternoon, I've been joined by Dr. Osai Kwapon for a conversation. I'll also be gauging the mood of the Deputy General Secretaries of the two major political parties, the NPP's Haruna Mohammed and the NDC's Mustafa Gbande, and also Rami Edmondson, who is the PPP General Secretary. Grateful gentlemen for your time this afternoon. Let's start with you, Dr. Osai Kwapon. What's your stance on calls for a national policy on political party campaign funding?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you very much. I have always been a big supporter of state funding, state financing of political parties. I think that it levels their playing field, and if done well, you can structure in such a way that it gives a fair amount of funding to support both the big as well as the small political parties. I mean, the Constitution does obligate the state to provide non-financial support to political parties by giving the parties as well as their candidates equal access to state media to share their ideas and their programs. What has been in contention for some time now is whether the state should step in with financial support. Interestingly, when you look at the trajectory, sometimes when our parties are in power, they tend to like the idea. When they are in opposition, they tend to like the idea of state financing of political parties. But then when they are in power, there is some kind of hesitation. The only challenge we face now is that the public appetite for such a national policy is extremely low. So in 2005, when CDD did a study on state funding of political parties, at least about 50-something% of Ghanaians were in support, of the idea that the state should fund them, the state should provide some support. But in the most recent Afrobarometer in 2022, only about 20-something%, supported the idea. The general sentiment was that let the parties raise their own money. So it will be a very difficult proposition now, given the climate in which we are in terms of public appetite, to get the public to support such a national policy.
Thankfully,
but it is one that I would support.
Thankfully, I have the political parties' representation on this conversation. Let me start with you, Haruna Mohammed, especially because the government of the day, its hands are usually tied because they have to satisfy all the people who, finance them to power. And sometimes those people even misbehave, and the government is unable to deal with that because of the financial role they've played in the party. Don't you think such a policy will help check some of these things? Hello, Haruna Mohammed.
Aisha.
Great, we can hear you now.
Yes, thank you very much, Aisha. I first and foremost say good afternoon to my colleagues on the other side of the conversation. And for us in the New Patriotic Party, we are a conservative party. We believe in so many ideals, and calling for the state funding of political parties, it's not a bad idea at all to us as a political party. I have always maintained a point that the Political Parties Act of 574/2000 has always created that particular lacuna, not allowing political parties to even execute businesses to support the operations of political party systems in Ghana. And also there has not been established law that has also given power to the states to support political parties in terms of financing. So a move in this direction will help to reduce the burden of funding of political parties by political parties themselves. For me, I stand to disagree with people pushing and putting pressure on government because they have funded those political parties. These are opinions and positions that is not established on fact, but these are things that many other people have always thought that this is how the material movement of the comment goes through. But notwithstanding that fact, calling for funding of political parties by the state, if that is what the people of Ghana, because the sovereign law of the people of Ghana resides in the people of Ghana. So if this is a decision of the people of Ghana, so be it. The political parties welcome that. We are always open for such conversations to be able to take a center stage where political parties will have some level of support through state, so that there will be that level playing ground for all political parties in the election period that may come.
Most of Uganda, what's the NDC's position on a national policy to streamline political party funding?
Thank you very much, Aisha, and good afternoon to my colleague and your cherished listeners. I think that for the first time, I stand with my colleague on the other side on this matter, that our way of funding, basically, we get funding from donations from individuals and also subscription and dues. Beyond that, political party like NDC is not so keen on the state being the source of funding to political parties. So yes, of course, we stand with our brother, my brother Mohammed. However, our side of the trajectory is for critical look at how individuals and characters within the political space and how they, engage in monetization of political activities. And so running a political party is different from behavior of actors of politics. For example, a flag bearer or a parliamentary aspirant's campaign is not basically determined by what the party does or not. It depends on the person's ability to afford. And so if we put, some critical look at those areas and we are able to control the amount of money that is spent on campaigns and the behavior and sources of these funds, I'm sure that we'll be able to hold individuals to some accountability. I recall when we were doing our various primaries, these issues came up. I recall your own station, my brother Evans did some calculation of how presidential aspirants spent on, their campaigns, including that of, so if you look at that of the former president and that of the current vice president, who is the leader of the MPP. The question is, the person who is a public service officer, the person is in office, how does that person's expenditure reflect the reality of financial misappropriation? And that if I am an individual who is not holding a public office, how do I utilize my money? So that should be the discussion we should be having. If we are able to control these levels, then I think that will be fine. But again, if the state decides to support political parties to fund their activities, we will be for it. But the NDC will not put pressure on an already stressed state to be funding political parties.
Well, that takes us back to that conversation, because definitely when individuals sponsor party activities, they definitely have a stake in it. And when the party wins power, they definitely would have some sense of entitlement and will need the government in power to also satisfy their needs. That notwithstanding, let me bring in Remy Edmondson. What does the PPP think about this?
Yes, thank you. So yes, we definitely are in full support of the government coming in to provide financial support to political parties. You realize that in the last 2-3 elections, the cumulative, votes of the smaller political parties compared to the big two have been steadily decreasing. Political party activity requires great financing. You need to engage with your grassroots, you need to travel around the country, you need to undertake programs for them, and all this requires lots of money, which most of us in the alternative political parties do not have. And so we believe that it is if the government can come in and there's such a policy and there's such a conversation going on, it would help to keep the smaller parties in contention. The danger we are having is that if smaller parties are not funded adequately to survive, to engage with their constituents and members, we run the risk of having a two-party democracy, which is not going to augur well for this country. In fact, it's a fact that PPP and other parties like us have been very, very vocal and provided alternate policy to various policy issues in this country. And it's important that we survive and are still around to help check the excesses of the two parties, that's the NPP and the NDC. I believe we also need to look at why. I know there's some public outcry against funding of political parties, and we can view that in the fact that if you look at the opulence that is displayed during the primaries and elections of the two major parties, we all see the level of vote buying that goes on. We see how much is being shared, the items being shared, the voter inducement that goes on. We see how certain functionaries of some of these political parties overnight somehow become millionaires and start demonstrating signs of wealth that they previously do not have. I think one thing we should look at as we're having this conversation, we need to also look at our other aspects like our asset declaration law, other checks and balances which will ensure that if the state is coming in to fund political parties, I mean, the other Ghanaian, no Ghanaian wants to have their money spent by politicians. So if Ghanaians know that okay, our monies are going to be used by the government to support political parties, but then the political party functionaries are going to be checked. There are going to be strong measures in place to ensure that they account for these monies very well. I'm quite sure that many Ghanaians are going to come on board and we're going to have a very successful implementation of this policy.
Right. Dr. Kwapong, in the interim, as we continue to advocate for this policy, what can we do in the upcoming election to ensure we do not have such situation where a party wins and there's so much pressure coming from its financiers to fix them somewhere?
For me, it boils down to the enforcement of the current legal structure in place to ensure that political parties do not engage in the kinds of behaviors that are untoward when it comes to the financing of the parties. So there are rules about a number of days before an election, they need to make available their audited accounts, who is giving how much to the party, the state of their assets, their liabilities, etc., etc. If we can push political parties to be a lot more transparent in how not just the party but the campaigns are being financed, I think in the interim we can get some control over this issue that is becoming quite a big concern. Because at the end of the day, you can always make a link between how much an organization or an individual decides to fund a political party and what the expectations are. Right. So if an individual gives 10 million Ghana cedis to a political party, are they doing so only because of the love of democracy in Ghana and the love of the party and the love of the party's ideas? Or do they have some expectation of getting something in return? And then that is where sometimes some of these things can also fuel some of the procurement corruption that we see in the system. So enforcement of the laws and the rules that we have in place and continuing to shine light as the campaigns go on is something that we can do in the interim until we can get a much stronger control over this, particularly at some point whether the law also wants to look at placing caps on how much individuals or organizations can donate or contribute to political parties, because at this point there are no campaign contribution limits, neither are there campaign spending limits.
Haruna, what's your party's role in achieving this?
Actually, you recall that in the 2020 elections, from the simple 1 CD to the last kobo that was spent on elections were funded from Ghana government coffers without any support from any international organization in terms of the organized 2020 election. For us, in the New Patriotic Party, we believe that strengthening institutions and supporting political parties in this space will be able to help our democracy to grow. But for us to check the box, I believe that there is a need for us as people of Ghana to amend the Political Parties Act to allow political parties to do business, to be able to support their political activities. I believe it's one way and one step of getting out of this particular quagmire. If you look at South Africa, you see that political parties have been given the opportunity to do businesses. You see political parties having factories, operating businesses that will be able to support them. And this will further give the political parties the opportunity to decide what happens to their parties when their party is in government. And I have been an advocate for the amendment of the Political Parties Act to allow political parties in Ghana to do business, to be able to support their activities. Whatever is lawful within the spirit of the law of the Republic of Ghana, the New Patriotic Party clearly supports that.
Mustafa Gwande?
Aisha, beyond all the reforms that my colleagues on the other side have spoken about, like I indicated earlier, we are fully standing with them on this matter. But let me also put it on record that the NDC's critical view on that matter is that we should rather focus on the activities of actors within the political space. And I would like to invite Aisha, all of us, to put our judgment or our ruler on people who are still in office as government officials and how they behave politically. In this case, ministers who are contesting the election, flag bearers who are still in offices as vice presidents or presidents who are rerunning election. How much of state leverage are they using to finance political activities is one that all of us will have to be concerned with. And then we should be able to put accountability to those kind of behaviors.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time this afternoon. Haruna Mohammed, Mustafa Foyugbande, and Remy Edmond saying, Dr. Osai Kwapon, I'm grateful, gentlemen, that you were able to join for this conversation. Time now to hear from you, the electorate, and today's voter's voice is from the Kaneshie market.
Yendu to say adokru 5 cedi. Upesa umi party say na mi gina we. Mi di dokru mienu 10 cedi. Na ma tonchi na mo ahin. No no mate no a ene wan dokru we 5 cedi. Un kita 5 cedi un to me didi. Enti eni mate nu 50 pesos egbe. Say a 3 cedi. Un kita 3 cedi un to me ri. Aba no mate no di kan mu. Ana osi ojiji sika no. Onu mate yo gori ka say ya no. Assist Canansu. Says, you know, back it has and anything. And the mamma na ya you to chin yana see a son action. Ya penny back. No, no back it has the animal. Ya penny back, no matter stomach.
And this is your election brief. It's on your election headquarters. Election headquarters is for an informed electorate. To enjoy the rest of our programs.